Hello, everyone. I'm Father Alexander,
And I'm the Reverend David Marshall, and you
and
are listening to A Bridge Between, a special edition for Sunday the 29th. And it is so cold, I have my space heater on, and I'm worried you can hear it, so I'm gonna turn it off. So, for those who know, we're still in Florida, and it's freezing.
and
So,
I am and I am shaking my head at you because I am not cold, and that's saying something
that's interesting.
because
Yeah,
you're the
because
you're the you're the Northwest guy. I'm
right.
the Southeast guy, and you're the one that's cold.
Yeah, well, it's in my blood. I've
There you
adapted,
go.
adopted, whatever.
Yeah, your blood
This
is
is
thinned out. That's
this
all
is
it
my
is.
home now. Um, yeah. So the Seahawks game we were watching, it was like 50 degrees and raining, and I know how cold that is up there, and it's colder than your average 50 degrees and raining. So
Absolutely,
yes,
absolutely.
I very much embrace this, and I also am doing what my music director suggested. He is from Philadelphia, um, and he had said that do not acclimate during the winter. So
Mhm.
put on as many layers as you can because summer's coming. And speaking of, we just survived the darkest night of the year. We've made it.
Exactly. It's the winter solstice, and now all the days will get incrementally longer.
Yes, brighter. It'll be nice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Are you following the stuff about getting rid of daylight savings or standard time?
I would love to get rid of daylight savings.
I would
Absolutely.
love to get rid of standard. I'm a daylight savings guy. So,
We disagree about something, but
right.
that's not what
We
we're
just
disagreeing about today, probably.
Right. Because
Um,
June 15th, the sun's going to rise at like 4:30. That's just weird. So,
but the other reason it's getting brighter is
yes, is
the Lord has
Merry
come.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas, the Lord has come. So,
Yes.
so we have survived another Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. We had two services at St. John's, 4 and 10:30 p.m. So 4 p.m., 10:30 p.m., and then the next day, 10:30 a.m. And I'm very thankful to my associate priest here, Father Lee, because he took Christmas Day. That's kind of a promise I made to myself and my family that while I have kids still in the house, that I
Mm-hmm.
won't do the Christmas Day service so I can have that Christmas Day experience with them
Yep.
because I've only got two left of those. And that's it.
Wow.
Before they go to college and then come back and maybe one day come back with their own children and it's all a different experience. So
That would be a totally different experience.
yes,
When they're in college, they still come home for Christmas, by the way.
well, sometimes they go to somebody else's house or you know, you never
Yeah.
know. You
I
never
don't
know.
think that goes over real well with Roxanne. I just can't. I wouldn't want to be anywhere in the county with Samuel telling her, I think I'm not coming home for Christmas during college.
Yeah, I'm going to my girlfriend's house. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll see how
I
that
don't,
works.
I don't think that works very well.
But
I mean,
hopefully you and I and others like us are taking a little bit of a breath. Some of the most stressful parts of the Advent season, the Christmas season, have kind of passed. And I don't know about you, but one of the things that I try to think about as soon as it has passed is how can I change my attitude or change the things around me to make it less stressful next year?
mhm,
And one of the things I have done is I've tried to get a lot of my materials and planning done months ahead,
mhm,
talking to my music director, things like that, but
right.
also learning to delegate and also just practicing a sense of being present in this moment and not trying to constantly worry about what's happening next. So there's a lot of different techniques.
You raise a good point that we pretty soon in a week or so we're going to be focusing on New Year's resolutions. Well, we should be focusing on next Christmas 2025 resolutions of
Yeah.
how do I want to behave in Advent, and this honestly has been one of the best Advents I've had since being ordained. Um, that there were things we put in place, in particular going on vacation over Thanksgiving and
Yeah.
feeling rested and ready to roll, because that helps me focus on things that we need to do and to let go of other things that we don't need to do.
Yeah.
Um, so it's been much better for my heart this year, and a lot of that is because in Christmases past, thinking this isn't really a sustainable way to run through. Like, I'm not being a good role model, if you will. I'm not exemplifying what Advent and Christmas should be. So, yeah, so very good. And I also take Christmas Day off, and with the insistence of I only have X many of these.
Mhm.
And so the neat thing about All Angels is that by tradition, we do not have a Christmas Day service. So everything wraps up on Christmas Eve. And in particular, which is interesting for this particular Christmas Eve, I'm not sure why, but a lot of folks have traveled off island for this Christmas. And so we get to really focus on the folks who have traveled on and are vacationing here, and to welcome them. And so it's been a lot of fun. That this Sunday, I'm going to guess that we are going to have a higher than average number of preachers turning to our show to get some ideas to what to preach on.
Right, and good segue, because one of the things I was going to talk about is the 29th is kind of one of those funny Christmas Sundays.
Funny
In the sense of, it's not Christmas Day, so you may have preached on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day,
right,
but then Christmas continues, right?
yes,
And so we have to kind of keep talking about it. But what do you talk about? And I mentioned to you before recording that you thought it was kind of pretty cool to talk about, is what is this huge phenomenon that's going to occur immediately after everybody opens up their Christmas presents.
I wasn't sure what you had said, and so it's better if you tell me. And I remember what you said, but I want to hear it from you. So
a lot of people are going to go return stuff.
Yes,
A lot of people are saying
of returning things.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to say, let's go and return all these gifts that I have received, which I do not like, and get some store credit, or this thing doesn't fit me, it's not the right size, which can happen.
Right.
I remember getting a lot of Christmas gifts from either Roxanne's family or my own grandparents that I would say, no, I am not Shaquille O'Neal. I do not need a triple XL sweatshirt. Maybe a slightly smaller one would fit. But so it is kind of a phenomenon that people are returning things and trying to get the gift that they actually wanted. And the point that I say that might be something good to touch on is, we have received this wonderful gift of Jesus Christ in the incarnation. Let's hold on to him.
Let's not return him.
Let's not return him.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hard to hold on to this gift, because frankly, the gift may get uncomfortable sometimes. The gift may say things which challenge us. Jesus may say things like Jesus may say things that challenge us throughout the year as we go through the lectionary. He may preach some things that we may not always agree with.
Sure.
Or he may call us to do things and live a certain way that we ask ourselves, how is that even possible? But don't return the gift.
Nice. That I like that idea a lot. The other gift, if I can focus differently, is peace on earth, good tidings to all, right?
Yep.
That this season also is the season of peace. It's the season of wonder and awe. It's the season of reflection, of staring at a tree and just pondering things. Don't return those gifts either. Hold on to the peace that you've been given. And if anything with your peace, share it, but don't return it. So maybe re-gift it.
Well, or, sometimes when we were kids, we would get kind of a communal gift, one that was really meant for all of us to share.
Okay.
Like a game or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I think about that. So I think exactly what you're saying is true, that there's these wonderful gifts that we're going to receive, and they don't have to be fleeting. This feeling of peace is meant to be sustained. This feeling of joy is meant to be staying with us throughout the year. And that's actually one of the things I really appreciate about our Orthodox brothers and sisters, is that they focus a lot on the incarnation. They focus a lot on the birth of Jesus, and I appreciate that theology being something they talk about, more than just on Christmas.
Right. Also, when do they celebrate Christmas?
Oh, you got me.
Yeah, it's actually on our Epiphany.
Well, that's a very almost Hispanic thing to do, because many Hispanics, for us, Christmas is one thing.
Yeah.
But really,
Yeah,
The big
really.
day is the Feast of the Epiphany because we have the coming of the Magi.
You got it. That's the big one. And from my experience in San Diego, with the families that we got to know, that particular celebration is where you invite all the people you want to have around you. Where Christmas is, no offense, but all of the family members that you have to invite.
Yeah.
And then second one is where you really the friendsgiving, if you will. It's like Thanksgiving. It's such a it's incredible tradition. It's a wonderful tradition. I still can taste the cake in my mouth if I think about it long enough. And there's some bakeries in San Diego that are incredible. So yeah, it's that's a great time. Our daughters, who were born and raised in Russia, um, they always thought it was weird that we had celebrated Christmas in December. They're like, why are you doing it so early? And Christy and I actually had this thought of like, I mean, wait, so you're not expecting Christmas on the 25th? So we could start buying Christmas gifts on the 26th and decorations. Like we could really, and like, no, they need to be included in U.S. tradition and custom, you know.
I'm sure they Americanized real quick on that
They
one.
they did. But, you know, for that 1 year, it was like, hey, this could actually work to work anyway. But, so you talk about the returns and I talk about the discounts that there are. This is also the season of discounting. And I don't want you to discount the gift that God has given us in the birth of Jesus.
Yeah. And so as clergy, this is kind of it can be a challenging time because Christmas has passed in the sense that the 25th has passed and we maybe wanted to take some time to ourselves or with family. So one of the tips that I would give is, use the KISS method when for the sermon is don't try to make it very complicated. It's okay to kind of have a simple message during that.
For the 29th?
For the 29th.
Oh, okay.
Because you may be trying to take some time off during that week, and that sermon prep takes time.
Right. Or listen to Bridge Between, and we'll give you a sermon.
Well, you can take it from us too.
Right.
But look, do you want to talk a little bit about the readings that are coming up?
I do, and it's interesting. I'm going to take a different angle on this, and that there are two distinct patterns of thought for homiletics on the Sunday that follows Christmas. And one is you do joke Sunday. And so you have fun, you tell jokes, you keep it light, and then you move on. The other school of thought is that the people that show up on the 29th are actually more theologically oriented, that they are actually interested in having you engage a little deeper. So don't do the jokes, don't do that type of thing. But if you're interested in jokes, Alex, what do you call a snowman party?
I do not know.
Snowball. All right. Why was the Christmas tree so bad at knitting? Because it kept dropping its needles. How do you help someone who's lost their Christmas spirit? You nurse them back to elf.
So if you look at the readings for today, the 29th.
Yeah. So what did John have to say about this?
What did John have to say about this?
Yes.
I can't. I'm sorry.
All right.
So no, it's okay.
I have more.
I'm sure you've got a whole.
Do you want to know why the candy cane broke up with the pretzel? Do you want to know that one?
Sure.
Yes. Candy cane was looking for somebody sweeter. Or my favorite, that I was corrected by a parishioner. The candy cane broke up with the pretzel because the pretzel was too naughty. So,
so the reading for the 29th is John chapter 1, verses 1 through 18. And this is
in the beginning was the Word.
Yeah. And so this is kind of a very different Christmas story. Because we're used to Luke, where we've got some shepherds, some angels, we've got the Christmas story of the birth of Jesus.
Right.
And John is approaching it from a completely different place.
Right.
It's like in the beginning. Now, let me tell you kind of what I learned a little bit about this passage.
Okay.
In that for the people who were hearing the words in the beginning, it was kind of like a trigger point in their mind.
Okay.
Of Genesis.
Right.
And so to hear those words pulls them back into this concept of in the beginning, God.
Right.
In the beginning, creation.
Hmm.
And that's why it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was
Right.
in the beginning with God, and all things came into being through him. And without him, not one thing came into being. And it's this second person of the Trinity that we're talking about.
Hmm. It is. And yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I am one of those people that believes it was entirely intentional
Mhm.
of John to do the beginning. In the beginning was the Word.
Yeah.
I'm also one of those people that believes this was one of the last things written to complete this particular gospel.
Hmm.
I think that more, I think it actually began more with Jesus walking and John saying, "There's the Lamb of God." I think that that's more of what John was collecting, but couldn't start in that way. That wanted to start with the beginning itself. And so, if you're drawing that parallel for those that are listening, I think there's a lot of textual criticism that would support that type of beginning. And to contrast it again, the way that Genesis contrasts the beginning with light, and that the beginning was the darkness, and that God said, "Let there be light." And likewise, with verse 5, that's where we have darkness entering as well. And so, I think you're right on if you start doing those type of parallels.
And so what I would say is, if you're looking to kind of have a theological sermon, sermon that's kind of geared theologically to that group that you're talking about, which
Mhm.
in my experience have shown up on the 29th, they're hungry for something, a little more meaty. It's this idea of being enfleshed,
Mhm.
and the word became flesh. And it's so hard to describe this concept of an eternal being choosing to become temporal,
Right.
you
Right.
know. But the way that I have preached about this before is the idea of lived among us is more like dwelled among us, more like pitched his tent near us and
Right.
stayed. And that's kind of
Right.
some of the translations I've heard as well.
Yeah. So think of Cousin Eddie out in front of the house of the Griswolds. That somebody who comes to stay.
Yes, Jesus is not cousin Eddie. We want to make that clear.
No, I no.
I just want to make that clear because
Clearly wasn't.
I don't want to lose like
No,
Jesus points or something.
no. I
Um,
was focusing on the verb and not on the
I know, on the
not on
person.
the divinity of it.
Um,
So yeah.
but it's also important that Jesus coming into the world is a temporal moment that is
What do you mean
meant
by
to
temporal?
temporal. It's within time. It's not
Okay,
out like Jesus exists. The second person of the Trinity existed outside of time,
got it.
right? As
Right.
God, as God, and now comes into time and is affected by time and space.
Sure.
And so it's meant not to be just a brief visit. It is meant to be someone
Right.
who stays, like, okay, I guess like cousin
Right.
Eddie,
Right.
you know.
Like, and
Sorry,
we'll be staying with you through January or whatever that line is, and kind of yeah.
we'll stay with you through the next year, um,
Right.
and I one of the things that I love about getting into this theology is recognizing that there is this coming together of the Hebrew and the Greek and the
Mhm.
philosophies and the languages, because Palestine at this time is a coming together of various cultures in the Hellenistic era.
Right.
Thank you, Alexander the
Right.
Great. No relation.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Right.
what would you be focusing on if you were preaching on this from that theological perspective?
I think I'm going to combine a couple things: the joke Sunday with the theological Sunday. I want you to smile and to have fun with it.
Mhm.
That these first 5 verses are beyond our understanding and knowing. That John, who was writing it, I don't think had the complete, because we can't completely understand this, and that the Advent version of the way I was thinking of God is God who there is nothing above, there was nothing before, and there's nothing after. That God who's transcendent, which means we can't understand the unknowable, unseeable God. That so was the Word, The Word was transcendent. The Word was before all things. The Word is beyond all things. And this is also echoing a different gospel with Jesus saying, these things pass away, my words never pass away. This whole sense of transcendent, but then something happened. That this life was the light of all people, and this light, this word, this logos, because we don't have anything else for it to describe it, has now entered into our time and space. And I was going to make a Terminator reference, but I decided not to. So,
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I agree with that. There's a story that I want to share that somebody gave as a great sermon illustration that maybe if somebody wants to use this. There was a young man who really had lost his way.
Okay.
He was into drugs and alcohol. He
Right.
was kind of an abusive person to everyone around him. And essentially everybody had given up on him.
Okay.
Except his grandfather. And so his grandfather knocks on the door. He, grandson opens it up. He walks in and he sits on the couch and he doesn't say a word. He just sits on the couch.
Okay.
And the grandson says, "What are you doing here? I don't want to talk to anybody. Get out." And he just sits there. He just sits there. And he says, "Okay, well, listen, I got to go to work, so I'm going to go drinking or something. I'll see you later." And he leaves. He comes back. Grandpa's still on the couch. And he starts to get very angry. He's like, "You need to get out. You can't tell me what to do with my life. You can't change me, all these things." And he leaves and he comes back and Grandpa is still there, hasn't showered in a couple of days, probably hungry, and the guy keeps screaming even more. And, this kind of goes on for a couple of days until he comes back, he sits down and he breaks down and starts crying next to his grandfather.
Right.
Because he realized his grandfather was not going to leave until they could find some sense of reconciliation for the family. And that just concept of staying and dwelling reminds me so much of Jesus.
Yeah. It reminds me of a Native American story as well that involved a coyote that would just sit in amongst them. We wouldn't hunt, it would just sit. And until finally they were able to express something that needed to be expressed. And when they did, then the coyote walked away.
Yeah.
Something way beyond nature that, nature wouldn't normally do that. And this is way beyond nature. I have a Jewish version of reading the Gospels. And so what it does is it takes the flavor, the nuance, or the idea of Judaism in the first century and reads the Gospels in that direction. And
nice.
So the way that they are translating world is that he came into the world, that the word is cosmos, and they're translating it as he came to those who would not receive him. That the word decided to come down and to be with those who will eventually reject him. That the sense of the word knows who they are and has come anyway. And so the grandfather who sits on the couch, knowing the grandson is going to reject him over and over and over and over and over again. But just the grandfather of like, I'm just going to wear you out.
Right. I'm going to wear you out with this love. And it's the light shines in the darkness and the darkness is not overcome it.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I think as we kind of start to kind of wrap up this year, essentially, of preaching, one of the things that has caught my attention is that I wish we could do these like 2 weeks in advance.
What do you mean?
Like recording and stuff like that, because I feel like I want so much more preparation and reading and digesting of the text.
Sure.
And that's just because a lot of times I will preach and then sit down and go like, wow, I really see it differently now. Or I heard somebody read it in a different voice and said to myself, oh, now that I hear it again, I'm thinking of it this way. And so I think, I wish that we could have a Bible study of just clergy so that we could sit and talk about this every week, to really engage with one another and all the languages and, the words of the text and things like that. It's just a thought as we kind of come to the end of the year.
That's great. Well, okay, a couple things. You and I can record 2 weeks in advance. I mean, There's nothing saying we can't.
Yeah.
And we could do that. But if I can bring out into the light something you and I have chatted about, and that is that we have this desire to create a Bridge Between Lenten series, where we would introduce a one of the lessons, and the idea is that clergy who would use this, or lay people, I mean, either one, that Alex and I will talk about a particular passage. We'll ask some questions. It'll take about 18 minutes, and then the people who use the Bridge Between as their Lenten thing will then have a little booklet or a worksheet or something that they can go through the questions themselves and answer those.
I love
my
it.
favorite idea of this is, because one idea is that we just lay down all 5 and have them done, package it by Ash Wednesday and send it out. The other way is for the dialogue to actually happen, that we would do one that the Lenten series would happen, say, on a Wednesday. They would send us their responses to the questions. We would then record the next one. That seems like an awful lot of work, but
we'll pray about it. We'll pray about it. But I know that we want to keep working with people and kind of being something that helps feed people positively.
Yeah, and some of the surprises for you and me is that you and I enjoy talking. We do this anyway, so we just hit record, right? But that other people are enjoying it too. That others are getting something out of it, and that is, I mean, I shouldn't be surprised. All things are possible with God, but but this is one of those things where the light is shining, and just to see how much farther we should go with it. So I very much enjoyed, Alex, 2024 with you and doing this, and hopefully we will celebrate 2025 together. Maybe.
Absolutely, we'll be doing that, and
right.
I'm very thankful for this year, for everybody who has listened in, made comments, talked to us about it, and I'm just overall trying to bring a sense of gratitude to the end of this year, so that as we go into the next year, we recognize all those things that God is going to do, and the last word I want to say is don't return the gifts. Don't return the gifts that we've received from God in this Christmas season.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do you have time for one little quick story?
Go ahead.
So, my oldest son plays the clarinet. My youngest plays the trombone. I play the trombone. And there's a clarinet player here on the island, Kevin, who wanted to play music. So we did 2 clarinets, 2 trombones. We stood out in front of Publix with the Salvation Army ringing the bells.
Oh, nice.
And we played that. We had a great time. And it was interesting on Sunday early afternoon to do that there were people that were coming by to say hello to me and to the rest of the group, because Ethan's always up on the altar. You can see him. Elijah's always running the cameras. You don't see him, but he's always there doing that stuff. And that we had several people show up who I didn't necessarily recognize from seeing at church, but they know who we are because of electronic media. And one of them somebody had shared a Bridge Between, had forwarded it to them, and that they are now listening. They're not preachers, but I think we're all, at some level, we're all preachers.
We are proclaimers.
We're all proclaimers. We all ingest and we all speak. And that was an interesting power of what's happening, of this type of distribution network, and how this message can get out and that it's happening. And so I'm just thrilled that we get to do this.
That's a wonderful gift. Thank you.
And let's not return the gift of the Word became flesh and lived among us, and we have seen His glory, and we put it on the internet. So,
amen. Proclaim it. Well, Merry Christmas to everyone. We're thankful that you have joined us. We hope your preaching goes well. We hope your proclamation goes well. And as you embrace the new year, just know that we embrace it alongside you.
Yes. So Happy New Year, and God bless.
God bless. Catch you in the next one.